Starting since late on Monday, we started seeing rain here into the Northland, and guess what? We're going to continue to see that into today before we finally start to clear as we head into the overnight hours. It's going to be a breezy and chilly one as well, especially for July standards, and that cool weather is going to stick around into the weekend before we start to warm up, and we're going to see some more rain on Friday, but luckily for Thursday, it's going to be pretty sunny and dry, so we get a bit of break from all the wetness. But let's look at what we have seen over the last 48 hours. You can see the highlights here are mostly in southern Bayfield County and as well as going to the eastern portions of Douglas County. And around the Twin Ports, gone up to close to 3 inches in Fond du Lac neighborhood there. Once you start getting into this area, Salt Springs got up to 5 inches. Estimated here from radar, so this is not verified, but estimated close to 8 inches. And when it comes to Ashland, well, just to the west, 4 inches. And in fact, Ashland yesterday broke the 24-hour rainfall record. Usually it was just under an inch, and now they've gone almost 3, if not over 3 inches in just a day. And if you look at here in northern Minnesota, they didn't see much rain yesterday, but they started seeing rain, as I mentioned, late on Monday. Overall, we got a few inches, Ely a little bit over an inch, going to Orr about 2.5 inches. And these are the verified, I guess. And as I mentioned, the accumulation there is 6.3 inches. This is radar indicated or estimated, so it probably won't be as much, but overall, we have seen quite a bit of rain from this system. And that's why we do have flash flood, or I should say flood warnings in place here. And that's because, there might be some standing water on roadways. Some low-lying areas might be flooded or washed out. So just keep an eye on that. Don't drive into any standing water. And look at this. We're continuing to see that rain, as mentioned, outside. And it was mostly around the Twin Ports where we see the heaviest band going from the Twin Ports southwest into like Aiken and Pine City, between those areas. But we're also going to continue to see some as we go into northwest Wisconsin. And in fact, in northwest Wisconsin, we can see about 1/2 inch to possibly even 3/4 of an inch at time. And as you go more into Minnesota, we're likely, the further north you go, the less likely to see much more of any rain. And when we get into the evening hours, this is when we're going to finally start to see the rain move out. Now, by the time we get into overnight, we'll still see some showers, especially once you get around Ashland east into the UP, but it's going to be finally starting to clear out. Now with this system, we're also going to see a bit of wind today out of the northwest. Wind's going to be gusting up to 20, 30 miles per hour, and it's going to be strong as on Lake Superior. We could look at this. We're seeing 26 knots here at the Sky Harbor here, so it is getting quite breezy right off the lake, and this is why we do have beach hazards in place. So we can see rip currents and very dangerous waves, so definitely be careful if you want to plan on being on the beach today. And with all this wind and rain, it's going to be cool today. You're looking at the high temperatures for today. Sometimes it's hard to believe because we're in the middle of July, but 50s and 60s for your highs is what we're going to be seeing. And this is when it's over 20 degrees below the seasonal average in some spots, especially in northwest Wisconsin. So it is quite cool for a July day, as I mentioned. Lows going to be into the 40s, so pretty cool as well. Warming into the 60s and low 70s as we get into Thursday. So definitely warmer, but still quite on the cool side summer. Usually we're in the upper 70s and low 80s this time of year. And in fact, we're going to be staying cool as we go through the weekend before we finally start to steadily warm up into next week. And finally, look at Thursday. It's going to be, not only is it going to be, cooler, getting into the low 70s, upper 60s compared to a normal summer's day, it's going to be sunny as well and dry. So a really pleasant Thursday for us in store before we start to finally see more rain make its way back as we head into Friday. So looking at our 7-day, this is what we have. We have a bit of a cool stretch ahead of us. Some rain chances as well before we get back to our normal program, getting towards next week with those temperatures.